You can watch all of our coverage from the Roundhouse on the New Mexico in Focus YouTube page. That includes Gwyneth's conversation with State Representative Pamela Herndon about her bill that would require parents to safely secure guns in a home with children. Now, for now, welcome back to our Line Opinion panelists. We're shifting our attention to the legislature now after the governor announced her public safety priorities for the session. As we expect now, the governor brought up the state's pretrial detention process. It's been debated for more than a year now, but there doesn't seem to be a consensus on how to move forward. The high-profile shooting scheme targeting lawmakers pushed the conversation back into the headlines this week after a judge decided to hold that suspect in that case in custody until trial. And State Senator Joseph Cervantes, I should add from Las Cruces, says that evidence that judges already have the discretion they need to hold defendants in jail when it's appropriate as they await trial starting broadly. Andy, do you agree with the senator? I mean, he has a bit of a point here. There's a reason other people are pushing for this. Where's the middle ground here?
I mean, I think he brings up a good point about the Arnold tool, which is not necessarily designed to say should or shouldn't they stay
Explain the Arnold tool if you would be
so yeah, it's a tool that the Supreme Court state Supreme Court came up with to say when we did this bail reform, it was a big constitutional amendment, and they added this tool that's sort of just to gauge of how dangerous this person is, right? How much supervision they should have. Right. But the ultimate decision is always up to the judge. There's nothing that says they have to, look at the Solomon Pena case, it didn't say this guy should be released. It said if he's released, this is the level of supervision he should have.
Rebecca, Senator Cervantes, I mentioned, vocally opposed to one specific idea, legislation that would create a rebuttable presumption of dangerousness for defendants charged with certain violent crimes. That means defendants would have to prove they aren't a danger in order to be released ahead of trial. Any dangers in your gut about that philosophy that jumped to the surface?
About him not wanting to entertain the idea of rebuttable presumption again? To go back to the Arnold tool, I think it's deeply flawed. I think the intent to have it was good. I appreciate that Senator Cervantes is acknowledging that it has many faults.
Sure.
I didn't even know until the Solomon Pena case that judges did have the ability. I thought it was like, okay, well, you plug these numbers in, boop, 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 boop. Like it's going to tell you, put in jail or let back out. I think personally, I'm still a big fan of if you're in jail in the first place, it is your responsibility to prove that you're not a flight risk, that you're not a danger to society. I know that is not fair in every case, but in Albuquerque and in New Mexico, when even the governor and the leaders of the Democratic Party are saying crime is the most important thing on everybody's mind, I think we have to step back, get off of the soapbox we were on last session about no, we are not going to entertain rebuttable presumption. Do it. Just get it done for the people because we are sick and tired of being victims.
Pick up on that. Yeah. People want something done about crime here.
See, one of the questions that should be a part of the Arnold tool, by the way, I think they should change the name of that, but one of the questions I think should be your ability to use a saw to saw your ankle monitor off. What is the propensity of you going to be doing that when you get out? Look, they call judges for a reason because they're supposed to be smart. They're supposed to be able to make conscious, rational decisions on what to do with our accused criminals and our criminals, and so they should have the power to make that decision. The Arnold tool is a tool. That's all it is. It is not the end all of how the decision should be made. And I agree with Rebecca. I think it's seriously flawed because I was thinking, just for instance, say somebody's been a Boy Scout their entire life or a Girl Scout their entire life. They've given to charity, upstanding citizen, participated in the community, and then one day they pick up an AR and they go shoot up a big box store.
Not a Girl Scout.
Girl Scout would never do that, right? Maybe a Boy Scout. But what I'm saying is none of that might register on the Arnold tool because this person has a pure as the driven snow history, but it didn't show up. I think that's why it's flawed. I mean, I may be misconstruing the Arnold tool.
I think though, as I understand it, as explained to me by Raul Torres, not to me personally, I was listening to him speak, that one of the big indicators is if you've been convicted of a gun crime, then it's like 3 points. If you were never convicted because your case never went to trial, because the prosecutor never got their poop in a group to get you to trial, then you've never been convicted. Therefore, you get a 0 on the danger scale. Yes, so that conviction part, I think, and again, this is how I understand it. But it's the logic of that it's flawed.
Yeah. Andy, a little related idea, this idea of bail reform. Senate Majority Leader Peter Wirth, one of several Democrats, opposed to major bail reform changes without their support. Does the governor have a chance here? I mean, she really has laid out a lot of changes she wants to see on this side.
It's going to be tough. There's lots of, or a good number of lawmakers that kind of are going off of the basically Constitution, saying it is up to the prosecutors of the state to prove the dangerousness. It shouldn't necessarily. I mean, based on the Constitution, it's not up to the defendant to prove that they didn't do it. Right? It's the state's job to prove that they did. And I forget this quote, and I'm going to butcher it, but it's been repeated over and over again. You can attribute it to lots of different people, but this idea that it's better to let a guilty person go than lock up an innocent person, right? And so it's sort of, I think it's based on the Constitution, and I think there's a lot of criminal justice lawyers in the legislature, as well as people that have that mind that they're going to sort of really question that. Peter Wirth told me specifically when I interviewed him that he said, he said on a number of things, never say never, but that he's really got to look at this and do a hard look at this. And so, I think it's going to be hard for the governor to get
Interesting. I appreciate the amount of detail there, Andy, because for TJ, quote from Senator Wirth right here: "There's a number of things on the crime front we need to do. I don't support adding new presumptions that I think would result in thousands of people being held that don't need to be held," end quote. Is that a reasonable fear from the senator?
Sure. There's also a reasonable fear that a lot of us live our lives in danger walking down Central Avenue downtown at night, too. So, I mean, that's why we have to reach some kind of a happy medium here. I'm going to say one more thing about the Arnold tool, because I've talked to current serving judges and retired judges about this. And both of them have said you can't rely solely on the Arnold tool. And if you are, as a judge, relying solely on the Arnold tool to make your decisions, you're being extremely lazy. Wow. This is not me. This is judges saying this.
Yeah. Interesting. Are we going to get another look at the Arnold tool? You never know in this session. I mean, these high-profile cases unleash things like this, and we get a harder look.
But for Senator Wirth to say thousands of people, I mean, is that accurate? Is New Mexico so dangerous now that we have thousands of people that could potentially be held when they shouldn't be? I mean, I think we have, without a doubt, we have seen homicides as a result of someone who should have been being held until their hearing, they were let out because the judge deferred to the Arnold tool, and then in that case, they commit a very dangerous crime, killing someone. So what like, if I get the better to release a guilty party than to hold an innocent one, but what about the people who are then harmed? I don't envy them. I have my opinions, but I don't envy.
It's a hard one. Andy, I'll finish up with you on this. Let's not forget the bill creating a rebuttable presumption failed in the legislature last year. And I'm curious why are the dynamics that different to give it a better chance this year? I'm not quite seeing it. I'm curious what you're saying.
I'm not quite sure either exactly. I mean, well, on the other hand, legislation that passes more often than not has been through numerous times, right? I mean, there's another philosophical idea of laws or bills is that it's not going to be the best if you pass it right away. Sometimes you have to sort of present it to these lawmakers over and over again and maybe make some tweaks every year. We saw the same thing with cannabis legalization, right? It changed so many times, but at the time we finally got it, because it just takes a long time for people to sort of come on board.
That's the perspective we're looking for. Good stuff right there. Thanks again to our panelists. We'll be back for one final discussion in about 10 minutes to talk about term limits and if lawmakers should consider them as they debate changes to modernize the way our legislature functions.